everybody, and welcome back to the Beer Ladies podcast. I am your host today, and my name is Thandi. Today, I am joined by my wonderful friends, Erica and Bean, who will say hi in a minute. But today, we have got possibly the most coveted beer ingredient on show. We have got hops. So you'll know, if you're a long time listener of the Beer Ladies podcast, that we have got an ingredient series going. And look, you can never do one ingredient in only one episode, but we'll give it our best shot to do a 101. And we've done malt, we've done yeast. So this is the third. We're doing hops today, and we'll do water later in season 2. So with that, let's have a little hello from Bean.
Hello.
And a big old hi from Erica.
Hi there.
And before we get going into the ins and outs of hops and, the differences between the citras and the galaxies and the SARS and the old world and new world and what on earth are they anyway, let's have a quick reminder of our different social medias. So as always, we love it when you guys tweet us or post on our Instagram or comment or share our posts. So please follow us there. We're at Beer Ladies Pod on Twitter. We're at Beer Ladies Podcast on Instagram. And our website is slowly but surely getting up to date. That was a bit of a summer project that got slightly delayed, but it's okay. We're getting there. It's beerladiespodcast.com. And we're busy just getting that all up to date and up to scratch. We're also on email, so beerladiespodcast@gmail.com for any suggestions, tips, corrections, because we're always open to that. So hit us up, and please follow and share on all the social medias and the podcast platforms, and of course on YouTube. All right, let's go around the room, because if we don't have hoppy beers, I'm going to be super disappointed. Eric, I'm going to start with you. What have you got tonight?
Yeah. So I have White Hag beer, which is from Ballymote in County Sligo. This is the second in their duo series, which features 2 hops. This one is Dorado and Cascade, and it's a pale ale at 5.5% ABV. It's described as giving a grapefruit, tangerine, and citrus aroma with a smooth, slightly zesty grapefruit, mango, and citrus flavor. And one of the other reasons I chose this was because I really love the color scheme, which is different shades of pink with a little bit of yellow and greens in there.
It's a very pretty can, isn't it?
Mm.
And how is it? Is it good?
Yeah, it's delicious. I'm kind of obsessed with their beers at the moment. I'll talk about their Union series later. So
nice, awesome. All right, Bean, what have you got?
I have some White Hag glassware that I need to break out with you, girl. Okay, so I've got some Ale Farm, which I'm just going to hold up this. This can's got a hand holding a match. The match is lit and the hand is floating in the sea like an island in front of a mountain with a single palm tree. Anyway, the beer is really good. It's called Inferno in Paradise, and it's got Citra, and my goodness, it's 8%, but and it's, besides its Citra, it's got some Amarillo. And Amarillo was kind of like the first hop that really caught my attention.
Okay.
I think I walked into Valhalla's Goat in Scotland, and I don't know, whatever, that bottle shop, that bottle that day, I was like, Amarillo. So that's my mind blown hop on show moment. So I wanted to pick something with some Amarillo, and I know White Hag's got their Amarillo hop on show thing out, but yeah, I went with this. So
that sounds
very good.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, okay. And where are Ale Farm from?
Oh, Denmark.
Did you say? Denmark. Okay.
Sorry. I did not say. Okay. So thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, guys.
Well, that sounds awesome. I need to look out for that one. And I really do like the can art. So for those not listening, head over to YouTube or maybe onto our socials once we post this, because I'm sure we'll have a photo of it. It's really interesting.
Art madness.
It's very cool. little bit retro-y 80s. I don't know.
No,
I
I
like
didn't
it.
even show you the information. There's the information.
Inferno
Okay.
in Paradise. Nice
Enough
one.
YouTubery. On to the show.
Today I have got a Imbongo. It's a tropical IPA from Boundary. So I've had a couple of Boundary beers, I think, but this one caught my attention because it's got a really interesting can art. It looks a little bit like maybe a mixture between graffiti or a painter's mural that's just kind of lots of colors mixed up. It's very cool. And I also really enjoyed their description. They said it's a tropical IPA. They said it took us 18 months of experimenting with our push and pull IPA series to discover this hop combination of Mosaic and Azaka, and said, consider yourself discovered. And I thought, that's lovely. Isn't that nice?
It's a beautiful beer, and Imbongorific is also amazing.
Yeah, I love that one. And they're from Belfast, I believe. Are they a sort of co-op brewery?
Yes, they are.
A different model.
They are. They're a co-op. So they're a co-op brewery there in Belfast. And this is gorgeous. Like, it's absolutely gorgeous. And it's 5.5%, which is great. IPA for a weeknight. Done. Love it. Okay.
Oh, you guys have such good taste.
Same to you, Bean.
Yeah.
I nearly went Imbongorific. I swear. You guys are nearly wearing the same top, and I'm nearly having the same beer. It's like, actually, all the hops. But that's a real, like, all the tropical notes, right? That one. And this one is too, but I think Imbongo's even more tropical.
It's absolutely gorgeous, this beer, really. And I'm going to call it out. But Erica and I are both wearing shirts from my own line,
which the Thandi range.
I know from the Thandi range over at Craft Geek. But it's fun because I've got hop heads on my shirt, so we are talking about hops. So I thought, of course, I'm going to wear hop heads, and it says not all hop heads have beards. And Erica's got it's an IPA kind of day shirt, which is just super suitable.
And I also have hop earrings, which my mom gave me from the US. Yeah, they're silver, so they're very subtle, but occasionally someone will notice and ask about them.
That's so cool. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, ladies, let's get into hops, because hops are probably the most popular ingredient in beer. I think everybody was maybe a little surprised when we started off with malt and yeast, but so
that's how you have to start.
You got to start with water, but we'll get there last, because it's very complex. But so as you all know, beer's really only made with 4 ingredients, right? So it's malts, it's malted barley or grains. Isn't just barley, malt, yeast, hops, and water. And so hops are the thing that people really look at all the time. People don't always ask about your grain bill or your malt bill. They generally ask about your hop schedule. They want to know where your hops are from, what kind of hops, how late did you add them, what are they adding to it. And it's amazing to me because hops are like these tiny little plant things, and they give you all these amazing flavors. Like, what is this sorcery? It's so fun. So we're going to hear a little bit about what are hops even, and we'll head over to Bean for that, because this is definitely Bean's wheelhouse. So come on, Bean, tell us.
Not while Erica's here, but I'll start, and then we can jump in. Hops are plants.
So does it mean that we're drinking salad?
Yes. So the hops that we use are the female flowers of the hop plant, and they're dioecious. So there's one plant will have male kind of sprays of flowers that have pollen, and then in the wind the pollen would float over, hopefully finding a receptive female plant. They have these little green flowers. They're not like hibiscuses or roses or something. They're all green, and they've these little catkins, their little bracts are organized all around in like sort of a spruce cone shape. They're definitely not spruce or pine or fir. They're flowering plants, all right, but they're all green flowers, like little, yeah, like little pine cone shaped catkins, and they grow, and they're perennial. They last like 20, 25, maybe 30 years. They're like a good 3 years of growing, but then they really start to take off, and they twine and vine up things because they're wind pollinated, so they want to be tall and have their flowers up in the wind and the sun. And then yeah, we've discovered that these cones are the things that we want to harvest, because they're volatile oils that they use to like keep down bacteria and stuff. They taste good to us, and even kind of have a, well, they're in the Cannabinaceae family, which also has got cannabis in it and also have volatile oils. And yeah, these hops, they've got like, well, volatile oils as they're volatile, so they escape, and some of them are aromatic, and they're called things that Erica will know, like lupulones and humulones and goodness me. But yeah, I mean, it's a good bit of fun. They're called Humulus lupulus, so I guess they would be called humulones and lupulones. And I'm gonna leave all the alphas and betas and numbers and things for Erica for someday, for later.
Sure.
But yeah, they grow from these like rhizomes that are like fleshy roots that are good at storing energy and good at growing through the soil and sending up shoots. And yeah, very attractive plants, actually. A lot of people just use them ornamentally, like to grow over a trellis or like up your house. They go very tall. So
yes, that's,
yeah.
how
There
tall
are
they? They're
some
about 4
varieties
meters
that
or
are,
so.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 18 foot is no bother on them, unless you get a little variety that's a bit more suited to the modern urban hop farmer.
And
so yeah,
am I right to say that there are certain regions of the world that grow hops better than others?
Well, I don't know, but Washington seems to be a great place to do it. And New Zealand, but they actually grow hops in like England and here in Ireland and Canada and
sort of. So then,
well, I mean, they will grow,
yeah, they'll grow, but they won't do super well. So I mean, there are certain regions of the world that are pretty well known for hops. So Germany is one. The US is obviously another. New Zealand and Australia is one. But there are certain parallels around the world that they grow in, and I think they've got to have something like, how many hours of light do they need to have? But it's a number. We'll have to add that.
I think that's the key, is the time of sunshine per day. I've been to Germany 13 times, and every time I fly into the airport, I look for the hop fields as we're driving on the Autobahn, and they're definitely a sexy ingredient, and I'm so obsessed with them that I have a sleeve tattoo on my leg of hops.
That's so cool.
Is it mostly like the flower part, or like the leaves,
so it kind of, I would say, like, if you're looking at it from afar, it might look sort of like pineapple in a way, like with the coloring. And my tattoo artist was very aware that he didn't want it to look at all like marijuana, so he used the correct images.
Awesome.
That's so fun. But I mean, I guess what's important about hops anyway is that they are a plant, and they're used to bitter beer. So that's what they're really adding. Those oils that Bean was talking about there, they're really used to give balance to the beer, because if you just have grains and water, what you get is a sweet liquid before the yeast
Yeah.
gets there. And what the hops do is they add some sort of bitterness, which is what we all like about beer anyway, isn't it? Not it doesn't have to be super high bitterness all the time, but there will be hops in beer. And I think, Erica, you're going to tell us a little bit about the history of using hops and how that came about.
That's right. So most of the information that I am going to share is from my former lecturers, Will Keating and Judith Boyle. So before the discovery of hops in beer, it was known as Groot, which is basically a combination of herbal ingredients. So there might be yarrow or bog myrtle, rosemary, wormwood, lavender, those kinds of things. And there are a couple on tap that you can get from urban brewing, as well as there's a brewery in Ghent in Belgium that has Groot only beers. So if anyone's interested in visiting those places. So the discovery that hops could be added to beer as flavoring was first recorded in written history in the year 822 by the abbot Adelhard in France. And they were mostly grown in French and German monasteries at that time. Around 1000 to 1200, they began growing in the Czech Republic, and then the 1300s moving to Poland and Belgium. Then came the realization of hops as a preservative, and this allowed the brewers to make stronger beers and play more with their recipes, and also greatly increased the beer's shelf life, because previously you would have to drink it fresh within a couple of days. This led to a movement of beer to other towns, countries, and continents. In the 1500s, eventually to England. And with the ease of transport, this allowed for making beer for specialized markets, and making beer on a commercial level became much cheaper in turn. This had a knock-on effect on the government, the legal systems, and the taxes, and became a really big industry. In the 1600s, hops produced in the USA and South Africa, the 1700s in Australia, the 1800s Japan, in the 1900s places like China, Argentina, Russia, Spain, and Bulgaria. And Thandi, you were mentioning the ingredients necessary to be considered a beer. And this is in line with the Reinheitsgebot, which is the German purity law that was written in 1516, and hops is listed as one of those essential ingredients. So
Yeah.
I know that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but
we're not fans of that Reinheitsgebot anyway. What nonsense, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just learned what that was last season anyway.
Yeah, there you go. I think one of the things that was interesting when we did our episode on IPA was that common myth of IPAs being called India Pale Ale because of the hops on the boats, and I'm using air quotes here for those who are listening. There is this myth that IPAs came from English travelers traveling to India and putting lots more hops in their beer so that it preserved the beer, and therefore it stayed for the long journey. Well, it's kind of not true anyway. There was evidence of hops being put into beer for, like, way before that. So it certainly, as you said, Erica, certainly helped for beer to travel, but it wasn't the reason that it was called IPA, and it wasn't the reason that any of these styles came to be. It was, and as you say, like there were lots of different things that we used to give balance to the beer, because we didn't want beer to spoil, so we found plants that helped with that, which was awesome. Yeah, so I mean that's really cool. I mean, I think if we think about hops, right, what are the really well-known sort of varieties or well-known countries for hops that we think about? The guys who grow hops. I mean, Germany is certainly one of them.
Yeah, I would say like for me, what pops out is the Pacific Northwest kind of Oregon area. Yeah. Like I've seen them growing in Wicklow here in Ireland. on a more local, small scale. I think with
Yeah.
climate change, like we are seeing new places popping up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like
Yeah. There's a bunch of interesting ones. So like if we think about where hops maybe spread from, because they're plants, and obviously what will have happened with them over time is that they get bred, based on certain qualities, and there are people out there who study the hop family trees. It's really not my vibe, because that just seems like too much hard work. But it's people have charted, for instance, the whole family tree of fuggles, which is an English hop. And I mean, there's so many offshoots and children hops and cousin hops and all these things, and it's amazing. But I think what's kind of cool anyway is that, as with most plants, fruits, plants, animals, even, or otherwise, humans have had a really big impact on what this plant is now. And so now we've got all these different varieties of hops, with new varieties being trialed and grown all the time. Like in South Africa, there is SAB, who are obviously bought out by AB InBev, but they've got hop farms down in George, which is like a coastal town down in South Africa, which is one of the only towns in South Africa that have got enough light to grow hops in the right sort of climate. But they have played with hops and bred different hops for years, and not many of them have taken off. They'll get used in the lagers and things, but there's not that many South African hops that are very well known. Whereas you look at kind of the Pacific Northwest of the US, where there's loads that are well known. A lot of the sort of fruitier tropical ones come from there, and yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's talk a little bit about the different ways that you can use hops in brewing. So, I mean, I'll maybe kick us off with that one, just as a broad overview here. But
yeah,
hops are used for two primary things. That's bittering. So bittering, I've sort of alluded to there, and then aroma. We probably didn't always use them for aroma, but we probably use them for bittering first. But now we predominantly use different kinds of hops for different purposes. So bittering will come from the level of alpha acids in it. So the higher the alpha acid, the more bittering properties the hop has. But not just that, the way that you can control the bitterness of your beer when brewing with hops is by controlling the different ways in which you use it. So how early in the boil you add it will make a really big difference to how bitter the beer is. If you add it really early, it's had a much longer time to be on the heat, and those oils or the resins, get turned into something that tastes bitter in the end, as opposed to a very late addition, which is often used for aroma hops. So the less heat you put in it, the more the volatility of those oils is preserved, and that is the aroma that stays there. So at a very broad level, you add hops in the boil, and at different stages of the boil for different things. So adding bitterness, and then very late in the boil or after the boil is often whirlpool or flame out hop additions, and those are mostly for aroma. And then there's one last one, which is dry hopping. So that's after everything's been cooled down and we're in fermentation phase. Adding small hops into your beer can add even more aroma and a little bit of late stage bitterness, but not that much.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, I actually did dry hop January instead of dry January this year.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Totally stealing that.
I would say blacks of Kinsale were really good in terms of double dry hop beers. I got quite a few of those. A few more things that hops add to a beer would be tanginess, stability. The tannins help clarify the beer, anti-foaming in the kettle, and then also foam improvement. And because I'm a nerd, I have a necklace of the Humulus molecule, which is one of the hops molecules. So that would be one of the alpha acids, which are acting as the antibacterial agents. So basically, when they're heated, their chemical structure changes to isohumulone, and that's what's giving the bitterness, as you were saying. So those bittering hops would have about 7 to 12% alpha acid, whereas the aroma hops would only have about 2 to 7%. And the beta acids like the lupulone are more of like an essential oil that are adding the flavor and aroma. So yeah, I think we kind of made a full circle with the three of us sharing little stories to add to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just learned about 5 new things in that sense. So, woohoo. Should hear that on loop, but yeah, 10 more times.
So, what I think is cool, okay, is that hops, just like every ingredient in beer, hops can be manipulated in a variety of different ways. So, I mean, your hops that you add into a lager it's the same. It's like exactly the same stuff as you add into an IPA. It's just that your variety is a bit different and the way that you treat it. So, adding it earlier, later, adding the amounts. Obviously, adding a bucket load of hops will get you a lot of bitterness or hop flavors or aroma, depending on when you add it. And that actually segues nicely into something that I mentioned in our one of our last episodes, but I really want to drive home here, and that is bitterness and hoppiness are not the same thing. Let's just have a collective yes,
I agree.
they're not the same thing. So it comes again down to the different ways that you can use hops. So yes, you can use hops to bitter beers, and those hops that have normally got quite a high alpha acid that are used for bittering, they might impart some flavor, but they're not known for the big flavors that you're getting. Those, like the aromas that you get from late hopped beers, are absolutely down to the volatile oils. So when you're looking at late stage additions, you get the flavor of the hop and the aroma of the hop a lot more than if you're adding it way earlier, where all of the volatility is burnt off and you're left with the underlying bitterness. So when we're talking about IPAs, I mean, the really big difference with IPAs versus a pale ale has got to do with the bitterness primarily, but then of course, as we said in our IPA episode, there's a million different styles of IPAs. So late stage or late hopped IPAs are obviously the East Coast ones, not super bitter, but very hoppy. So there's two big things, and they're not the same thing.
So when we say hoppy, what we mean is aroma.
Well, flavor too, because they're so linked. They're so linked, but that kind of like tropical, it depends on the hop now, but those kinds of fruity flavors or a floral or spicy, whatever the components or the characteristics of that hop is, they can come out in the aroma, but they can come out in the flavor too. My only thing is that to say that a beer is hoppy when actually it's bitter, it's not the same thing. A pilsner is bitter, but it's not necessarily hoppy. Whereas a pale ale or let's say a juicy IPA like I've got is hoppy almost more than it is bitter, even though it's an IPA.
Yeah, it's definitely got lots of bitter, but it's balanced by that.
Yes.
Like, holy cow, fruit.
Yeah. So I always like to if I'm considering a beer, or if I'm trying to identify the flavors and various things, I try and separate out the bitterness from the hoppiness, because they are separate. Yeah, I mean, you can get a red ale that is quite bitter, but it's not ever going to be hoppy,
Right.
Unless it's an amber ale. But that's a different thing.
Yeah. But that's a story for another time.
Listen to our red ales episode for that.
Too much IPA.
Do you have anything to add on hoppy versus bitter?
I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, that is kind of a common like misconception, like people confusing the terms. So it's kind of annoying, like when you see it and it's not true, even though taste is subjective. Yeah. One thing I was going to add about this is that the different kinds of hops that you can use when you're making beer. So that could be a whole cone, or it could be a pellet, or cryo hops. So like I think the whole cone is like kind of what we all think of when we imagine a hop in our head. But those, you know, all have pluses and minuses to them, and like they're probably much more rarely used than the average consumer would realize.
Yeah, give us the overview there.
So the whole cone hop would be the most natural and unprocessed hop, and they would have the most volatile aromatics. So there's a lot of wastage with these because of the soakage that's going on. And their larger surface area allows for rapid oxygenation. It can form a filter bed when straining the boiled wort and removing the hot break when you're home brewing. So then the pellet hops are called T90 and T45. They're still very natural. And these have increased utilization, smaller storage area required, slower oxygenation, and greater consistency. But there is still like this view of processing, maybe by the consumer, and you could get volatile aromatics lost. And yeah, like cryo hops, you can get in pellets. It's actually like a registered trademark. It's not like a common generic name. So they'll often be in a powder form. But I believe they're quite expensive and not as widely used as the pellet would be. And then you could have like hop extracts, but like I won't go into too much detail. Yeah,
that's been an interesting development actually of late, because now for homebrewers, you know, you don't really get fresh hops much, like you really don't, because they're obviously going to lose a lot of their characteristics straight after being picked. You know, they've got a couple of hours. You know, it's like picking vegetables, right? You kind of want to freeze them or use them soon.
Yeah.
So really hops are the same thing. So that's why most are processed into those sort of pellets, and then they'll often vacuum seal them and keep them frozen. So that's normally how you buy hops as a home brewer. But now, as you say, Erica, recently there's been this idea, let's say, of like hop extracts or liquid hops. So I mean, the way that you get dried yeast versus liquid yeast, you get dried hops, which are hop pellets, and then liquid hops, so like a hop tea that's been processed in some other way to be used. Now, I have a few homebrewer friends who have been trying some of those, and they weren't the biggest fan, but I think they're still pretty new. You know, there's still a bit of work to be done on that technology. But what you do see quite often is when breweries have got their own hops or hop plants, what you'll often see is a fresh hopped beer. You know, if they'll advertise it and market it as a fresh coned or fresh hop coned beer, as opposed to normal hops that they've bought from the homebrew store like the rest of us do, you know. So often you'll see that, and that you'd probably only really get once a year, because harvest time is only once a year, as far as I know. Yeah. So you will get some fresh hopped beers. Oh, that makes no sense. But most of the time you're going to be dealing with beers that have got hop pellets, which are perfectly fine. You just have to treat them right. So keep them away from air, and keep them frozen or in the fridge, but frozen's better. And that's how you can keep your hops good for brewing. Yeah. So I was thinking about this because, again, as a brewer, you often hear these terms like noble hops or new world hops. So should we talk about that? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Yes, please. Let's.
So does it depend on the country where they're from, Thandi?
It does. So it's noble hops are the older world hops. They're hops that have got the longest history, traceable history, back to Germany, Chechnya, so Czech Republic, those sort of older regions. And they are, I mean, the best known noble hop that I can think of is SARS. Yeah, SARS, Hallertau, Spalt, Tettnang. Those are like noble hops. And for the way that I remember it is, I feel like noble hops are old school hops, old style hops, and they're normally of the Germanic region, so that's fine. But they normally, for me, have a spicy or floral flavor. Now that that's not always going to be the case, but kind of earthy, spicy, floral. Some of the English hops that then came from those, I believe that they came from that, but I'm willing to be corrected, have retained a lot of those characteristics, but added a little bit more. So a lot of the English hops are not noble hops, but they are old world hops in the same way, I believe. And they're also a bit more earthy, a bit more spicy, a bit more floral, with varying degrees of flavor characteristics, right? As opposed to like New World hops, which are really the American hops for the most part. And we might include like the New Zealand and Australian hops there too. But, of the American hops, we could talk about the big C's like Citrus, Centennial, those are really the big citrusy, punchy hops that you might find like in IPAs. Some of them have got like pine or resiny notes as opposed to fruity notes, but even so, there's so many different hop flavors that you could almost pick a flavor from a wheel and you'll find a hop that tastes something like that, right?
Yeah, I was gonna mention the White Hag Smash Union series that kind of ties in with this. So these would be New World hops in which there's single malt and single hop, and I think they have 11 of them at this stage, and they do have Citra as well as El Dorado, Bean's favorite Amarillo, and then Azaka, Lotus, Idaho 7, Galaxy, Nelson Sauvin, Sabro, Strata, and Mosaic. And I've had all of them and I can vouch that they're all wonderful. Like I can't wait to try more of them. Like this is like my new interest right now is like these hops. Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. The Azaka was amazing too.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm
the
loving
Azaka is my new Amarillo.
So I've got Mosaic and Azaka in this beer. So like, and I think it's so interesting because actually the best way to find out what hops you like is to have the brewers actually list what they are, so that you can at least pinpoint, the ones that you like, and then start playing around. If you're not a home brewer, the best kinds of beers to look for are smash beers, like Erica was saying. So single malt, single hop, because you'll really get that hop flavor from them, which is useful.
And I think you'll find that more breweries are being transparent about those hop varieties, and they're even using them in their marketing. They have like images of the hops and the names of the hops, and I think that's kind of a newer trend.
I think
it's nice to see. Yeah.
I think it's because the beer drinking population are generally educated on the stuff. They want to know what they're drinking, and they know the difference between a Simcoe and an Amarillo.
Sure.
Yeah. Bean, do you have favorites now besides Amarillo and Azaka?
Oh, well, actually, when you said Simcoe, is it possibly Loral and Simcoe and Brew-1 was in this rock leopard? Type here to search. I may have to just include them because then you said Simcoe and that just like
triggered you.
Yeah. No, I love it. As a punter, I'm like, oh, Mosaic, I have heard of that. I think it's good fun.
Yeah.
And every time you have a good beer, you're like, okay, I know what was in that, so I'm gonna try that one. And then on we go.
On we go indeed. But there's different kinds of hop characteristics, right? Hop flavors and aromas. So I mean, you might talk about floral, which is a weird one, right? Because floral doesn't sound like something you'd want to drink, but actually it is. It's really nice. So some floral ones, East Kent Goldings, which is an English hop, is quite floral. Maybe a little herbal, but quite floral. So you do get floral, then you get spicy. So I'm trying to think of a good spicy one. We've got maybe Challenger or Magnum, although Magnum's a good bittering hop, so it'll be low level in terms of aroma anyway. Evergreen, which is often called like pine or resiny, that's Simcoe through and through, and Chinook. Yeah.
Yes, I'm learning that I love pine.
There we go.
If something tastes like pine resin, that seems to be good.
Yeah. And that's very much old school, like older styled IPAs. So West Coast IPAs are, really that side of the balance. So, look for those. And then we've got earthy or grassy, but I don't really know a lot of hops that want to be grassy because actually one of the ways that you can tell that people have either dry hopped for too long or too much or inappropriate for the style is that things will taste grassy. But I guess at a lower level, it can be great, right? Adjacent to that is herbal. So herbal is a weird one because it can probably taste a bit medicinal depending on who you are or depending on how much is used. Nugget and Columbus are known as being herbal. I can't say that I know any off the top of my head that are very herbal, but yeah. Then we've got citrus and fruity side by side because they're not the same thing. Often when we talk about fruity, there is like tropical versus melon versus berries. There's often those distinctions. And then citrus, within citrus, you get, you can get a lot of different kinds of citrus, whether it's mandarin, grapefruit, orange, lemon. What else am I missing? Lime. So there's lots of different citrus kinds of citrus fruits, and therefore lots of different hops that bring that out. So Amarillo is a citrusy one, so is Cascade, so is Citra, obviously. Whereas Nelson Sauvin, for instance, is more like gooseberry, and it's more dry white winey rather than super sweet or super tropical. So it's like amazing to me the different things that you can do with hops. And there's lots that you can combine them with. So there's really well-known combinations of hops in beers. And then there are hops that just don't seem to go well at all, either depending on the style or what they're paired with, or the malts that it goes with. Because obviously when you're brewing and when you're drinking, there's got to be some sort of I guess symbiosis or something between the malt and the hop flavors, and they've got to go well together. So it's part of the fun of experimenting, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I have seen some of the styles that have come up in the IPAs, for example, the sour IPAs or milkshake IPAs or, ones that I wouldn't have dreamed of maybe even 5 years ago. But also maybe an increase in micro IPAs, which is kind of nice to see for maybe a school night, which I guess you'd really want to showcase your hop carefully, like if you have a pretty low ABV or non-alcoholic beer.
I'm here for that. Whatever low alcohol, lots of hops, I'm here for that. So go on and please tell me.
I'm here for that too. I just don't think we need to call them micro IPAs. They really are just pale ales, like for the most part.
Do you mean like,
or you could say a session IPA in some cases? Like
that's also
I don't know
pale
where
ale.
like a table beer that's 3-ish%, like just kind of lower. Are we speaking of, or are we talking about like little? Like
that's the thing.
2%, like
micro's under 3, isn't it? So it's normally there. And look, most like normal pale ales are normally between 3 and 5%.
Yeah, I'd say
maybe
it's down to the ABV. And some people can get very pedantic about the different styles.
I'll just own it there a little bit. I'm
Hey,
actually not
Peden's corner.
pedantic. I'll be in Peden's corner over there. But actually, I call it out because I think that sometimes these things are like marketing terms rather than styles.
Sure.
And it's the same. It's the same. I've been on this rant before, but it's the same with double dry hopped anything. If I see a double dry hopped anything, I'm like, oh, go to hell. Like, as much as I might like the beer, I don't see why. Yeah, we've been there. Season 1 rant over.
It still
Yeah,
makes me happy though, you know?
fair
Still
enough.
makes me happy.
You know what? The world is big enough for everybody's likes and dislikes. I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. But it's it's I think a lot of the styles would in any case come down to the combination of ABV and IBUs, which we should probably mention since we're talking about hops. IBUs are the international bittering units, and it's the scale at which we represent or measure beer bitterness. It's supposed to be 0 to 100, but some people talk about it being a lot more than that. So some people talk about beers being 120, 140, 160 on the IBU scale. But that's because there is a formula to work it out based on alpha acids in beer volume. It's not necessarily what people can taste. So there is an upper limit of what people can taste. I don't think it's completely determined, but don't get too fussed or caught up on the IBUs of a beer. Decide for yourself what you like.
Yes, I never have actually been too fussed about the IBUs.
Nor the ABV.
For a second. Oh yeah, no, I'm all about the ABV.
I think after a certain point though, like, can you really tell the difference with the IBUs? Like I would probably struggle at the upper ends, but yeah, for ABV, I've been trying to stick to anything that's under 7% these days. Like your double IPA there would be too rich for my blood.
It's too rich for my blood, I'm telling you. Yeah, 8 is it's good fun. I mean, it's okay. I'm saving some for somebody else. So, but it's hard because it's really tasty though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, had some table beer from the Colonel. Oh man,
very good.
2.8, amazing beer.
Yeah,
great. And like, yeah, when
brewery.
you're self-soothing with a lot of delicious hops, just to lull yourself to sleep, it's hard in a pandemic to not be like, I will have all the hops all the time. No.
Yeah, like I think that's one good thing that's come out of our lockdowns is the table beers. Like I actually have one that I might have tonight as a nightcap. That's I think it's about 3%. That's by Line Man, and just really looking forward to that. Yeah, like I'm getting too old for some of the crazy, triples and quads and imperials. I'm like, oh no, I'll maybe take a few sips. We're a taster, but no.
Yeah, they're so delicious, but you kind of need some friends to do a bottle share at this stage.
Like, right.
I was at the off license today picking out a beer, and I saw there was a triple IPA, and I was like, no, oh my god, who's got the time for that? No, let's just not. Because I mean, I generally stick to the session-ish beers anyway, but having a triple IPA means over 9% alcohol and like extra freaking so many hops that it's almost wasteful. And I'm sure a lot of people love them, but it's just I think it's crazy for one. I don't know.
Some of those,
like they've had hop shortages at some stage, so you better, like, if you're going to be an awesome brewery, you better have a recipe that like doesn't overdo the hops. Like you can overdo the hops in the good times, but when it's like shortage central, got to crack out that recipe that that spares the hops a little bit, actually, right? Like just to be a good steward.
Yeah. Hey, and look, only certain beer styles are known by their hops. So obviously IPAs are one of them, and pale ales. But I mean, there's enormous variety amongst them. But the others are things like pilsners, which you normally find like SARS hops in them, and those are pretty well known. And they're not highly hopped necessarily. They're just hopped deliberately and intentionally to give you the exact right level of bitterness, which is incredible to me. But yeah. All right, ladies, I think we're going to start wrapping up. Are there any final thoughts on hops that we want to leave off with?
Well, I do have to say I have a few friends who say they don't like hoppy beer, but two of them have recently converted to drinking hoppy beer, and I don't think they're ever going to go back. So yeah, just if you give it a few tries and open up your mind, like you might get converted. So yeah.
Indeed. Bean, any last words from you there?
I do have a few last words about rhizomes, if I may.
Of course.
If you decide to become a hop grower up your house or garden trellis or you know, something in place of your ivy or clematis, you will do well to water your rhizomes and make sure they grow, because they're not so weedy. You have to keep them watered and stuff. And yeah, if you decide to join some social hops programs, or heaven forbid, plant a whole acre of them, please remember to water them so that they grow. That's what I learned about growing your own hop plants. You might actually even have be really prepared and organized and have something tall for them to grow up. That's about, as tall as your,
house.
Local lamp post.
Is social hops happening this year, Bean?
I don't know,
with Hopfully or Rascals? Because I think they used to organize the collection from the Bernard Shaw and then have a harvest day. And
yeah, I haven't actually been keeping on top of it, but I think it was just such a nice thing. And I think it'll be back. I think it'll be back, because if anybody's hop plants actually got watered and actually took their 3 years to grow, they'll be with us, and they'll cut and come again every year for 20 years. Yeah. So at some stage we'll all be on the vandage of hops and there will be enough to go around in a good year. So yeah, that's my kernel of wisdom. Water your rhizomes. You got like a really good one. Yeah.
And if anybody decides to actually grow their own hops, please hit us up on social media. We'd love to hear how it's going. I know a few people around Ireland do try, although we don't really have the best climate for it.
We might have a bit of powdery mildew and stuff. Hey,
I think so. I think we've got.
Well, I made a bit of powdery mildew. What? Yeah, it's fine.
But I think people do get it right with like grow lights or something that works.
Grow lights, but they're so tall.
No, I know. I don't mean the baby grow lights.
Sorry.
But no. But it's If you do grow your own hops, let us know. Tell us what works for you. That should be fun. And otherwise,
yeah, totally.
And otherwise, please catch us on the socials. Facebook, friends.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Take care.